Hello there, and welcome to the GitGud podcast, episode 2, in which two men rapidly approaching middle age with children talk about miniature painting. This is maybe a niche audience we're dealing with now, Magnus. Is that fair? Do we serve a niche group?
We are probably even borderline niche in a niche.
Fair. That's a good way of putting
it. I think. I mean, but okay, that's something too. If we can entertain a few people, even if it is a handful, then fine by me. I mean,
there's worse ways of spending our rapidly approaching middle age. I'll probably stop saying that. It's making me depressed saying it. So that other voice was, of course, what would you say? GitGud originator, key founder, creative in chief, Magnus, and getting the name right, as I'm continually trying to do.
It is very on point.
Yes, thank you very much. I mean, this episode, if you cannot tell, has been brought to you by caffeine. I mentioned in the Discord this morning that I had, it is now coffee cold brew season, and I forgot that you were meant to dilute cold brew before drinking it. So probably got a few 5 or 6 espressos running through my veins right now. It's fine. We will muddle through. So we're gonna dive right into the main topic. So it's been now, Magnus. We worked out the other day. It's been roughly a month since launch. Yeah. We first started working on content. We've put out over 30 physios, which I think we're both proud of. But the thing that has been key for both of us has been building this idea of this GitGud community, which is represented in the Discord and actually now people on Instagram and stuff like that. So I guess I want to let you leap into it. Like, how has that been? Because you've been someone that has often been a bit of a linchpin in the online communities around. Like, you're there to talk to people, to offer advice, guidance, to share some bullshit, things like that. Like, how has that been for you creating your ideal community?
Yeah, I think it is coming quite natural for me, actually, because while this is of course new for me, like driving everything, and we are too, but that we are driving everything, and it's kind of like our own name and our own brand. It is of course new, but I want to say community and online community in general is not at all new to me, actually. I come from competitive Magic, and there is of course community around that.
What a nerd!
Yeah, and I've been in and out of it a handful of times too. So I guess I'm stuck. But it's just there are, and even before that, I was deep into Counter-Strike, a bit too deep.
Hell yeah! No, I was too. This is great.
I mean, I'm not sure we were on the same level, but so I had to, at some point, I cold turkey it in because it would be either taking over everything or being my downfall. So I kind of cut it and said no more of this. But back then, I was also involved in hosting online tournaments and having communities set up there. That was just before Discord and all of that, so it was through ICQ, or what is it called, IRC or whatever.
IRC. So everyone remembers that Merc client. What a brilliant bit of software.
Yeah. So I want to say it isn't something new, and I kind of early on found out that it is just more enjoyable for me if I'm actually driving some things, because you get to like be more of a part of it, and you have like more influence over, I guess, the tone and the direction, right? And I firmly believe that it should be welcoming to everybody. I mean, there will always be some kind of, I guess, banter or whatever that is specific for whatever you're into, right? It could be gaming, or like Magic, or it could be painting, or it could be art, or it could be climbing, or it could be whatever. So there will be kind of like a specific vibe going on, I guess. But it is just very important for me that it is like good spirited and welcoming. And if you are one of the people driving it, even when it hasn't been like mine, I would like to participate. And for me, it is more enjoyable if you are actually like helping others. So it's not like, it sounds a bit hollow, but everything here is actually started like from an altruistic viewpoint. It genuinely are what I wanted to do with it. So it is because I wanted to help people, and I did already before on all kinds of platforms, and it didn't matter if it was Instagram or Facebook or Discord, whichever one. If someone has a question and I know the answer, I will give it.
Yeah, and
why wouldn't you?
Well, yeah, well, like no gated knowledge, I guess, or no gatekeeping. Certainly, in terms of like wanting to welcome people into the hobby.
No.
I think there's probably more of a delicate line you have to walk. I've probably thought about this a few times, and what better place to discuss it than a public podcast? Yeah. But like, so when people ask for advice, I'm like, yeah, here's my advice. Go take it. Whereas you are now 100% someone that professionally offers advice. You are paid for that advice, and there's almost like an element of, I guess, in your head you have to separate like, what's the stuff I'm just happy, I'm wanting to be an active part of the community, I'm wanting to help people along, and I'll point them in the right direction. Is that a tricky thing for you to manage, or do you just like, I'll just tell everyone everything?
It can be a bit, in the sense that it is, of course, like there has to be a distinction between like what is being paid for and what is not. That means that the advice you get when I give it is of the same quality. The distinction is more in can you demand it, I guess. So sometimes I will give it even though it isn't demanded, because, well, I tend to let people give advice and talk amongst themselves, but it's not like if I know it. And I mean, I think it's because I'm of the viewpoint that if my 5 minutes can save someone else 2 hours of struggling, I want to do it, right? And I know there are only so many hours, and it's something, of course, I need to balance, right? But I would rather give a bit of advice than have someone struggle if you can see it. So I am trying to, I don't want to say limited, but for example, I really like that Hangouts is a thing, and I will give advice and talk about whatever comes up, but generally it will just be less specific.
Yeah.
Right? So it will be for the greater good of the community, which is also when I give feedback on something, it is often because I think it is valuable for others to see. So it's not like, because the feedback you're paying for is the feedback you want on your specific project for you, right?
Yeah, on your terms, ultimately.
Yeah, you're asking for, this is what I'm struggling with. Can you help me fix A and B, or can we talk about this specific color, or can we, like, whatever it is, right? So that's basically like the customer driving what is the feedback. I mean, it is my feedback, of course, but what is it on, and how to. So it is more tailored, I guess, in that sense.
I guess I've seen you threading that needle, because like the other day on the Discord we were talking about bounce-like placements, and the question was asked, and because I'm an idiot, I'll just dive right in, because I don't care. Nope. And what happens is when you have a good community, as I would argue that we do, you get a nice discussion going about it, and almost then you can just come in at the end and say, loads of good things said. Here's just one or two things that were missed off that may be useful. And I think that's a good place to be in, because otherwise you're just in a place where like everyone's, you you don't want a situation where one person is put on a pedestal above all others, because then their voice drowns everyone else out and everyone's voice has purpose.
Yeah, I understand the difference in, like, if you go to a professional, you're obviously valuing what they say or do or whatever more. Of course you are. But but that's why you go directly to me. If it's something within the community, I really enjoy that the community can help each other, because and I mean, if something is missed or something is, and I think it is like important, yeah, of course I will mention it. But yeah, a few times I've said, I think basically everything here has been highlighted, and I think it is great points, maybe a little bit more of and then you should be good to go. And also it can sometimes be a matter of, because I know what you're talking about. It is like it was a specific scenario, and the person getting the feedback actually came back with them applied, and it was much, much better, and they could see. But if something was still off, I would, of course, jump on it and say, yeah, but it's because whatever, or maybe you should do more of this and it will pan out differently. But there's really no need if it is stated within the community should be able to discuss amongst themselves. And I mean, and I'm saying amongst themselves, but I am part of the community.
You're part of the community,
yeah. It is one of the most important things to me, and it is why we made this the way we did, is because availability is just almost number one. It is so important, because it's like people will associate the brand and what we do with us. So
I'm a nightmare person, so we really have to make sure that brand is good.
You're definitely not. But I mean, it's just, it wouldn't really work the way we want it to if we then skimped on the availability thing. It's not like we have to be there all the time on every hour of the day, but just that people can actually reach. And if someone has an issue with whatever, I don't mind them hitting me up on Instagram. I'm an adult, so if I don't want to answer, I don't answer. And I mean, I can sort it just fine. Most of the times, I probably will answer whenever I'm free to do. Right? So
yeah, it's not like you have a busy life, like a family, a small baby to worry about, a cat that's always trying to get in the room. I mean, all those little things.
I had to relocate today just because
someone's drilling outside or sawing or whatever the hell it was.
Yeah.
I've been sorry to. I feel like we started with a kind of an interesting, like almost a hardball question, but it was good to get your opinion on that, because it's something I think I've been thinking about internally. And I guess on this idea of community, the thing for me, and I really like the way you've put it in terms of availability. And if I were to give another word that is the most important thing to me, is this idea of investment. People invest in community. And one of the things that has always driven me away from communities in the past, unless they become like fully toxic, which is that's its own separate thing. I think that's a moderation issue, not like anything else. But when someone says, "Oh, I have an idea," and it's not met with a no or a yes, but just silence, that to me is the worst possible outcome, because someone's saying, "I want to invest a little of myself in this. What do you think?" And even a no response can still push someone in a different direction. Like, I'm listening to you. You're talking, and I'm valuing that. And that for me, in a position of control here, is like, oh, when people come with ideas, I'm always going to respond to them, because that's really important to me. Like, great example, we now have a place on the Discord for posting reference images, because someone gave us an idea. It's out there now. And it's why the challenges are very much now community driven, because that's a way for people then to invest in what this is and what we are. And that for me is key. and is ultimately like what I want to be a part of, is people sharing bits of themselves with a wider whole.
Yeah, and I guess that is community, right?
Yeah, 100%. Even if I did phrase that in a way that is now rife for double entendre, but that's fine. People can clip that as they will in future. So I mean, you mentioned it before, but obviously, like we are deep now. We're 6 days into our Orcathon. I mean, the official title is Enter the Var, but the Orcathon. And my God, the quality of work that is already in that challenge. What do you think about that? Like we're 6 days in. What are you feeling?
Maybe the prizes are too good. I mean, people want to win it, right?
Clearly.
Yeah, I think like the Orcathon is one of the best things ever. I think it is something where people can like interact with each other. They get kind of challenged to try something new or something. Well, for some people it might not be new, but maybe just the whole. It is. We call it a challenge because it's a friendly competition, right?
Yes.
But even then, that might be new. So, or like breaking some kind of personal boundary, right? And just people sharing and being excited on the behalf of other people is the best feeling ever. I really enjoy it. There's nothing better for me to be occupied with something, coming back, and then people are hyped because someone posted something awesome. Is it a picture, or is it an idea, or starting the base, or figuring out, okay, I need these tools because then I can make this effect happen, or whatever it is. Yeah, that's just the best for me. I can't really describe it. It's kind of, I mean, it is kind of putting something out there and seeing if it can sail. And when it does, it is the best feeling. Yeah, it floats and it can drive itself and everything works out. So yeah, it's really brilliant. And just people using the hashtag on Instagram or whatever, even though it seems a small thing, it isn't. It isn't to me. It is a big thing that people are willing to and wanting to and engaging. And like we're talking community in general, and a lot of the feedback we get is, this is great because people are active and that is what they want. They want people to share this with, right? That's why they are seeking community in the first place.
Yeah.
So
Well, I mean, I guess on that, like the thing that I am constantly in awe of, and like probably like it's probably the closest I've come to like pinch me as this real moment is, I know the amount of work that goes into a given paint job. And there's always the idea of like you throw out something like people are like, oh, that's wonderful, but I'm working on this project, I'm this project, especially because we very intentionally set like a short deadline, like a month. And yeah, you may not have a finished piece by the end of it, but you'll have learned something hopefully in it. And the way that people have applied their time to it, to be a part of it and to share their views and thoughts and excitement, that's unbelievable to me. That's heaven. Like that's a sign of a strong community, I think.
Yeah, and I think just the openness to it, even though you might not be, well, I mean, because we made it greenskins or at least adjacent, I mean, maybe you're not that into orcs or goblins or whatever.
Yeah, maybe you're wrong. That's a good point. That's a good point to make, yeah.
You are, probably. But I mean, it's just that even then, lots of people have actually, like, committed to it and wanted to be a part of it, and it's just the openness of people. It's amazing for me.
So and something like it has been nice watching the community grow with new patrons and things like that, and seeing them come to be a part of the community and what we represent and what we are. And I think looking at how people find us, people coming from like the YouTube and being like, I came here and this is what I'm looking for, which is like, what we're pointing out is talking to the right audience. This is nice because we don't want people that are just like, I'm going to join, I'm not going to say a word, maybe once every month I'll post an image of my work and then vanish. It's like, there are places for that and all the more power to you. But, one of our most active threads is health and fitness. And it's people talking about like their injuries and like rehabbing like problems and like, is it related to miniature painting? Not really, but when you've got a healthy community, you probably care about other aspects of people's lives.
Yeah, and also because, I mean, we started this up, and it's not like we started on empty, because of course we're starting because we kind of acknowledged a demand or a want. And so we already knew some people who were interested. And because I've had a lot of interaction with all kinds of people, we also knew some people to invite and to, but so, I mean, we knew that there would be strong community from the beginning, but what is exciting to see is new people coming in, right? And feeling like there is space for them too, because it can get kind of tight knit. But I mean, in the sense that you also don't want it to be like too close of a group, or like the jokes are being like something you can't really get in on because you don't know what it's like. There is no context anymore, stuff like that. And it's just like the whole idea that people can come from kind of quote unquote outside, but that we didn't know already on a personal level at all, can come in and be able to share who they are and what they're working on. And we had one of the newer guys say, okay, I want to start up fitness again in a health and fitness thread. And I mean, that is something that you don't have to share anything. We're an online community, so you can opt for not sharing anything. But I would just like that people were interested in it, because I feel like that's how you make connections, right? Sharing some of yourself in return of, and I mean, just, I had someone offer me somewhere to stay at Golden Demon Essen.
That's definitely going to end up with you getting kidnapped, but keep going.
Well, we'll see. Or losing an organ or two.
That's fine. You're not using all of those. You can lose one kidney, that's fine, and a good amount of your liver. So, if it helps pay for the trip.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm just saying that people are actually extremely welcoming, and if you need a bid for something, odds are someone would be saying, well, I actually have that bid, or you can find it here. Just the sharing of information of this humidifier, or this light, or this paper, or these paints, or like all the linking and all the helping and all the, okay, it's up for pre-order. All the guys who wanted this, it's in an hour. Yeah. I mean, that's what you get from community, right?
And the hangouts and like all of that ultimately. Like, I mean, shout outs to Dan. He sent me the goose, the Warhammer goose. Which, you know, I was not going to get it otherwise. Yeah, well, I mean, hell, Dan's a real one. I'm sorry, I should to give him his full title. Black Dragon award-winning Dan, coming successfully with his wonderful Nurgle piece. So congratulations, Dan.
Dude, how awesome is that? Having people from the community go to competition and others just hyping them up.
It was when I realized I was excited, and it was like, it was like 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm feeling a bit like, yeah. I think when you get really in tune with your anxiety, sometimes I'm like, oh, my heart rate's a little bit elevated. Am I like, what am I feeling? And I'm like, oh, I'm anxious because I know those guys are hearing the results soon. Like, like, and I'm, by all accounts, I'm hundreds of miles away right now. But hell, like when those messages coming through, like, oh, I won. That's incredible. That is
really
nothing
is.
quite like that.
No, and it must feel a bit different for you because it's you next weekend, right?
Yeah. That was surreal. I think I'm still processing how I feel about that because this became like my entire painting journey has largely been online in terms of the people that I'm talking to, and then there's this Element Legends competition run by Element Games, who I'm sure most people who buy stuff in the UK will know, and I realized when I went to drop off my models that I'd never been to anything like this in person, and like having people in the real world come up to me like, oh, this is really, and I'm like, oh, and then seeing people online get excited for me.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't expecting that. And I was trying to explain it to my wife after I'm like, I've never felt anything like this. Like I have been in like rugby competitions in the past and stuff like that, but never anything to this extent. And I think the worrying thing for me is, oh boy, this is quite addictive. I can see myself this is scary.
Dude, I traveled to dozens of Grand Prix during the whole Magic thing. And I never won anything, but everyone was I mean, it's not true, but everyone was always being so supportive. And that is what I feel is kind of similar here, and why I'm so into it is because you are competing on your own. It's not like you're on like a rugby team and your team is going against another team, because then you of course have those guys to celebrate with, right? Or well, if you lost, but
commiserate with, yeah. Did it go out of my time?
But what I'm saying is, you can be competing on your own, but if you have a strong community, you kind of aren't. The best Grand Prix I ever had, I didn't get anything, but my buddy won it.
Oh, then that's like,
dude, it's the best Grand Prix I ever was at.
Yeah.
My buddy won it, right? And everybody was hyped and going deep into a tournament, and everyone is excited and everyone is sharing pictures, and it goes on the Facebook groups and all of those things. I mean, I get goosebumps. It was the best feeling ever. The best Grand Prix out of maybe 30 or 40 or whatever, because we had someone in the group winning, right?
Yeah. And there's nothing like that. Like that is
no.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, and like even thinking about Element Games, because Ricky from the Discord is also entering it, and I'm just as much, or if not more, invested in. Oh my god, how's Ricky going to do? Because his salamanders are really nice. Like that is how I would like to paint Space Marines, and like, oh, they're going to see that surely, and I hope it gets. And then you hear their anxieties. So like Ricky's, I'm not sure about the base. I'm like, dude, it's so, and just that level of emotion, the idea of feeling that alone feels a little bit wrong. And not wrong. Wrong's too strong a word, but if I'm going to do it, I would rather do it with people around me, even if they're not physically around me, but people who have my back, and that's the community.
Yeah, what I think one of the like the better thing I did for me and for someone else was when David went to Adepticon. I messaged him and I said to him, I'm turning on notifications, and I think you should write everything and anything whenever you have time and feel like it, because I knew he was going alone. So for him, it was a thing, like sharing it with someone, and I was excited to hear what is going on over there. And so now you're two people who can kind of share a thing, even though it was online, but oftentimes it doesn't matter that much. You still have someone to share things with, and it just feels, I guess, pure in some way.
Yeah.
Because it's like there is no lid on it, I guess.
But it's that question of who is in my corner. Like, it doesn't matter if they're thousands of miles away or whether they're your buddies sat next to you. Who is in my corner, and just knowing that there are people there rooting for you, I think is so vital. And certainly in miniature painting, where I think a lot of people talk down their work because you know, for a variety of reasons, but it's nice to have someone there say, I know you feel this way, and I'm not trying to diminish your feelings, but I think this is brilliant, and I'm here for you, and I'm supporting you, and isn't that a wonderful thing? And I'm gonna give you perspective. If you win, I'm gonna cheer with you. If you lose, I'm gonna be here to help you get past it and move on, and that's gonna be great together. Like, it really does get me quite choked up, even like talking to that level. But I think that's the level of investment people have put in GitGud, and hopefully the level of investment that we'll share back. I guess. Yeah,
and it is one of the reasons why I want to be and stay active within it, and why I like the availability thing, because people are actually investing something of their time and themselves into something that is, well, ultimately yours and mine, right? But I want it to be much more like ours, because we can carry it on our own anyways, right? So if no one wants to carry with us, it's dead in the water from the beginning. So that's why I want to like give something back is, I guess, our main mantra actually from the beginning, right?
Yeah, so completely. Give something back is a good way of putting it. I mean, maybe this is a heavy topic. We seem to be on heavy topics. When at the start we were like, let's just we'll just bullshit for a bit.
Yeah, let's just freeform something funny.
But I really want to talk about this because it cropped up in the community, which was the question was asked, like, do any of you feel a bit low after finishing a project? And this is the one I wanted your perspective on, because I think you'd be better kind of shooting off the hip from it, because the artistic process, like we were talking there about competition and community and all of that, but the artistic process is solitary. When you sit down and paint, unless you're at like a tuition thing and someone's looking over your shoulder saying like X, Y, and Z, you're doing that alone. And so there are aspects of this hobby that are really solitary. And so when someone asks like, hey, do you ever struggle pick up a piece after? And I don't necessarily feel that, but a lot of people did. And I wanted to get your perspective on that question and like how you feel about that. Like, what's your take?
Yeah. I feel it. I feel it on every project. I will say the whole solitary experience is actually lessened for me, even though I'm doing it on my own, because I'm recording fairly often.
Oh yeah, we've changed that, haven't we?
Yeah, so it actually, and I want to say I am doing it like on my own, but it feels less solitary actually, which is kind of funny because I wouldn't have guessed it. Like, if I was going 2 months back and we were having this talk, I would have thought, well, it would probably just be exactly the same. I would record whatever I normally do anyways and put it there. And it's not. Yeah. Not at all. So my kind of like the solitary like feeling of the art thing is lessened. So, and I think so it is a bit easier for me now. But I feel it, and I've always felt it. And it is a kind of another one of those, like a heavy topic, a bit philosophical, I guess. But I think for me, it's also the whole ADHD, dude. It is
you're
just
getting your brain chemistry into this. This is outrageous.
I think it is something that is worsening it. I usually had non-painting during the summer, I did last summer. I did paint, but otherwise I usually actually don't paint during the summer. And I tried to line it up with ending a project there because I knew it would take time for me to get into the next one. And I think the taking time is because you are kind of artistically spent and a bit emotionally spent too, because you put big feelings into a project, or I do at least. Seek the feedback and the validation, putting out your work in progress photos and whatever, and the whole. I don't. It's almost kind of like everybody knows that feeling when they've cleaned the entire house. Everything is just, whew, and you sit down, and now you almost don't know what to do. Do I turn on the TV or do I play a bit of games? Yeah, now I guess I relax. With what? What? So, or at least I get that feeling too. So when I've completed some task, and especially when it's a bigger one, I get into kind of like that. Yeah, but then what? And because there are so many things to start, I can at least get kind of like almost stun-locked in the sense that so many things to choose from. I almost don't know what to choose. Yeah. So that's another thing. So it is a combination of the whole, like, I guess leaning into the feeling of accomplishment. I've done it. I did whatever, like, kind of like when you finish a long run or whatever, you did the task, you did good. Now is time for like relaxing and don't associate with it and next thing, right? And I kind of get it, even if I've tried starting up a project when I'm like halfway, not the best time to do it because you kind of get into that, okay, now it's going a bit downhill because I've tried all the cool things. Now it's just more of the same. So now you're kind of excited for the next project and it's hard for me to stay on track. Then sometimes I will start it when I'm like 70, 80, 90% in, try and start the next project up. And now I don't really want to finish the first one because it's the boring base and all of that. Yeah, you can see on my bases. That's why they suck.
I didn't say anything about your bases.
Yeah. Well, you
can think it with my eyes.
Yeah. So I've tried doing it there also, or even like, okay, maybe I do it within the first 20%. I just scrape and prime and whatever, because I actually kind of like having, sometimes you're sitting at your desk and you're not really wanting to paint. But you can clip something and glue something and scrape something and fill something or whatever. And it's still hobbying and you still feel that, like, I guess, connection with what you love. Yeah. So I've done that too. And now I'm kind of split between two projects because there's so many cool things to do on both of them. So I haven't found the sweet spot of when to start something up, like the next thing, to do like that smooth motion from one into the next one. It helps a bit that we actually have like a content calendar and we're planning.
Has to be done.
Yeah, we're planning, and because then I've already thought about what would be the next thing and what do I want to show. Because also for me, getting into like the finishing steps of a project is so rough for me because I almost always want to bounce around. I almost always want to fix a bit of this and maybe this is not really where I wanted. Okay, so then I spend 20 minutes on something. Then I noticed that gem looks off. Okay, so I mixed two colors and fix that or whatever. Oh, okay, then it's the next shiny thing. And that's why I'm saying it is probably also an ADHD thing. But
I guess then like the recording helps because it's almost not like I'm doing this model for me. There's also an element of I'm doing this model for the patron, which is also ultimately the community. It's a different element of pressure almost to And as long as you manage that in terms of not letting that pressure get overwhelming, that should be good. Because it's interesting to me, like listening to you say that, I'm like, oh, this isn't a problem you've solved. This is something that you are still
No, it's not.
with.
I haven't at all. And I will say I've lessened it. And I guess also kind of learned by now that I know I get into it. And the easiest fix is to start something new. And sometimes I started Jane's R and I didn't like it. So I stopped and put it back and started something else. So sometimes it means I start something that maybe it's not the perfect fit, or at least not the perfect fit right now.
Yeah. Because didn't you come back to Jane's R and you liked it a lot more?
Yeah. I pushed it aside because, I mean, I got from one project into the next one because I wanted to try something out and whatever. But when I then tried it out, I was like, now I've tried it. I want to try something else because...
Yeah, the itch is scratched, but it's not doing what I
needed to do.
Yeah,
it's not really what I wanted to follow through. But I didn't know that when I started, because there's also an element of it is hard to pick out kind of like the perfect project, because oftentimes you don't know before you're well into it if it was the perfect project.
Yeah. Because
something like Halgrim was almost the perfect project for me because I enjoyed everything about it. Right? So, but I couldn't have known when I started. So, yeah, sometimes I will have to push it away. And I think the whole learning, like with myself, that, okay, I need to try and start something. It doesn't have to be the same week or the week after or whatever. But next time I kind of get that hobby itch, start something. Try out.
Yeah. And it's interesting because this maybe speaks to like the different brains here, because
it definitely does.
Like it is an intentionally like personal thing, but I so there are people in the community like Primaris who will have feels like 10 projects on the go at any one time and spends so much time hobbying and dives between those. And
yeah, the funny thing is he doesn't actually. He has 2 projects, but because he lines them, he kind of finishes one, lines the next one up, has one on the go. So they are kind of almost overlapping. And he is varying them so much. So they are night and day of each other, kind of. So it feels like he's almost always having all kinds of projects on the go, because I guess
there's always an excuse to pick up the brush. Like there's almost that. Yeah, there's always that thing waiting.
I mean, none of you and I do it that way. So he's I don't know how he does it. He must be, I don't know.
So I think that's a different brain thing, because I have now, I would probably say 6 models primed, ready to go, and there'll be a point where I reach like saturation on a given model, but that's not saturation in the hobby. And so like the other day, I'd been painting, like the other day, great example, I'd been painting so much of Sepsimus and I was kind of done with that grungy, nugly stuff. And one of the things I've been wanting to do for a while is paint an ultramarine, because I haven't painted enough blues. And Space Marines demand cleanliness, I think, is the easiest way of like framing it. Like, I don't want to do a battered Space Marine. I want to do a pristine Space Marine. And if you're doing a pristine Space Marine, it's probably going to be an Ultramarine. And so, like, I'm just going to paint an arm for a day. Well, it was actually 30, 40 minutes that I had. But I'm just going to paint a little bit of a hand, and I'm going to scratch that itch, and then I can go back to Sepsimus. But because I have so many things on at a given moment, all I need to do is change the direction for a little bit. But I think the key difference is I am a task completer. And the thing that would aggravate me more than anything is not having the model completed. And I know, there's like a meme in the hobby, and with a lot of people, it's like, here's all the stuff I didn't finish. That can't be me. I need to finish what I start. And sometimes that's a failing, but sometimes it's a benefit in terms of like how you navigate through projects and get onto the next thing and the next thing.
Yeah, I think that's where because you and I are different in the sense that sometimes I know that I will have to abandon a project because it just brings no joy anymore. And I mean, if it doesn't, I'm not going to finish it. I don't care if it's 100 hours in. I have more than one model with 100 hours on it. And maybe I will finish it one day, who knows? But I know for sure that I'm not picking it up again before I feel like it would bring me joy. And that's one thing. But another thing is having 6 models primed up. Like, I mean, yeah, I basically have 6 projects going on right now. I think at least 6. It can kind of lead to that overwhelming feeling of having so many things you could do, so now you're doing none of them.
Yes. And that's a very typical ADHD thing as well.
Yeah. And I know it's not like, I know it. So I will have sometimes where, whoops, I've scrolled for 4 hours instead of doing the task that I had, and I had so many because I couldn't really, like, I'm so bad at just starting in one end and ending in the other. So that is the flip side of having like multiple. For the longest time, I actually had one project that I worked on, and if I didn't feel like hobbying or didn't feel like that project, I would do something else. Yeah, then I would maybe I would be clipping something or whatever, but I wouldn't even get to priming it, because that is kind of for me the starting point. If it's primed, I can just slap paint on if I want to.
Yeah.
If it's not even primed, it's not, for me at least, not really started. So I wouldn't go further than that. And sometimes I would be just thinking or researching, or if I kind of the hobby thing, I'm watching some videos or I'm reading on color or whatever. But just to say that then I ran one project because I knew as soon as I start the next project, fuck that old one. Sorry, but yeah, it's in the past, and now
it's dead to me now.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that comes back to like it's ultimately going to be a personal thing, but I think the surety is maybe the lesson I took away from that is. And it's funny because it's a similar thing with anxiety, is the things you're feeling probably aren't unique to you. There's probably someone else out there who feels the same, and you can support each other, or maybe you can get a different perspective, etc. So yeah, I think maybe that's a good way to wrap up the community discussion, because I think we maybe like we focused on 2 areas there. Like number one is like there's the joy of community, and I know we talked about in the progression talks episode about one of the best things for improvement is having a community around you. And then the flip side is like when you can get into a headspace, which I would probably frame as struggling, community is there to pick you up and bring you along and ultimately check that you're okay. And isn't that a nice thing at the end of the day? Cool. So moving on, news. I meant to be doing news, and I think the 2 bits of news. Start with the one I'm less keen on: the new chaos models. Magnus, is there anything that you particularly enjoyed from these new? Because there's one that is basically Dante but chaos. Paint expression is like nothing that excites you in that.
Not too much. I think it is probably also a matter of me having so many things already.
Lots to paint at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, in the news, I will say I got the dwarf, so now I have that.
Damn it! You've scoped my news item episode, like part 2, which is Grombrindle, I think is the full name.
Sorry. Okay, yeah. Do you see?
No, we're on it now. Chaos is chaos, but yeah, the white
it's not,
dwarf
because
500.
I can kind of get in. I mean, sure, but it was not enough for me to just, because I have to be kind of wowed.
No, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, and there are just so many awesome things to pick from. So, and I know I can't pick everything, and I can't even pick half or a tenth. So it will have to be something where I'm like, this is something I really want. And They no, not enough at least.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Whereas Grombrindle, the dwarf, the 500. I love this model.
Yeah.
As soon as I saw it, I'm like, I'm gonna buy it. Like, so I don't have any particular love of White Dwarf because I'm so new to the hobby. It's like I know it like as an institution in the way that like when I was young, I would walk past a Games Workshop. I'm like, oh, that looks neat, but I never knew it in any kind of cultural capacity.
I've actually read.
You read a White Dwarf? You're in deep.
I had friends when I was a kid whose bigger brothers were. I don't know if they were war gamers or just collectors. They painted the miniatures at least. And one specific friend had his big brother who always got the White Dwarf. And, well, we were at a point where we could, because I'm Danish, we could read like English. So it got a lot more exciting when you could actually understand what it said and not just like look at the pictures.
Look at the pictures, yeah.
Yeah, which was, I mean, fine, but and it's not like because I think the whole universe and like all the art surrounding it and stuff like that, you don't have to be enfranchised for it to be cool. In the same way that Starship Troopers is cool if you're like a 12-year-old or whatever.
The aesthetic is just neat. Like it speaks to a certain person really well.
Combat and robots and big guns and laser and robotics and all of those things mixed together, which was cool. So we, even though we didn't like know the universe or the competitions or even any of the techniques for, and I guess at that point that wasn't really talked about that much. I don't remember it too. Sometimes there were one of those, and ADHD brain, sorry, and he actually had codexes too. So I've flipped through a lot of the old codexes. When people share art or whatever from old codexes, there are a lot of them that I can remember. I think it's the Space Marine one with they're kind of like in a pile, or like the triangle one on the front, and lots of those I've seen before too from earlier editions. So it's not like, I mean, it means something to me. Not in the sense that I've been wargaming or hobbying or whatever for the longest time, but I've seen so many of those White Dwarfs and codexes. I've had some of them too. I mean,
and it speaks to a different era as well, because obviously the rumors are that White Dwarf will be discontinued, etc. And not to give credence to those rumors, but it wouldn't surprise me that a print publication in a very niche hobby is not self-sustaining, and therefore they're going to get rid of it. And so it's maybe a nice way to kind of cap off what has been a hell of a run. Like 500 issues is a lot of issues.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, and on a personal level, I of course hope they don't, but I can see why they would if they would. So it's not, I understand where they're coming from. So the model is special, and it's not, and it looks great. I mean, the
model is special, and it does look great.
And I mean, the base is a bit busy if we are nitpicky, but I think it is amazing looking. I
don't mind the base. I get why people don't like it, but also like. And I know the sprue, we were talking a bit in the Discord about the sprue, but I think it'll be easy to chop him off the base if you're so inclined and just have him on a
think
rock.
It will be manageable at least. So if you don't like it, I mean, I want it and I want to paint it up exactly as it is there, because I think it is something very iconic that I don't want to like touch or modify or anything. I want it as it is there, as it was intended, I guess. Yeah,
and like one of those rare heavy metal NMM paint jobs as well, and looks really good.
It looks really good. They did a fantastic job on it too, which is another, like we've talked about it before. Like for me, it is important that the model I'm seeing the box art of looks good. as a visual thing for me as a queue, if I want it or not want it, and it looks fantastic there.
Yeah.
I think they really, spot on. I really like it. So I did.
You did
first
good,
time I ordered as it released.
The first time. This is your first pre-order. Wow.
Yes, I never did it before, dude. I'm supporting my local game store. I always go to my local game store.
Didn't you order this from Warhammer.com? We are supporting our local game store by keeping the hobby alive. You're going to need to buy paint at some point, and that's how you'll keep them in.
No, I just pressed the link that was offered, and it
ADHD brain. That's fine. So the other news, obviously, we're both big fans of Legion Imperialis, except we aren't, and neither of us particularly like tanks. So, Godspeed to people that like those. A few other models released, nothing major, I guess, in terms of news. So maybe the more exciting thing is, what are you painting at the moment? How has that changed from last podcast 3 weeks ago? I guess the Saurus is the new thing, isn't it?
I'm deep into the Saurus now. Really enjoying it. I'm trying out new-ish things, different colors that I haven't used very much, and combinations of them. And I was very mindful going for the look that I'm going for, and it's like, not that it is completely new, but putting a lot of thought into it, because I am explaining everything to people watching it is definitely new to me, right? So I'm enjoying the process quite a lot, and I'm deep into it. And when I'm saying deep into it, I'm, I guess, 40% done or something. Maybe a bit more.
But you reasonably, and you've done it quite quickly in the grand scheme of things, certainly.
Yeah, but I have spent a lot of time on it, and it's not that I've had bouts before where I've spent a lot of time on a single model in a short period, but they often lead into a bout of like not spending as much time on it in the same time frame. So I guess that is the difference here, because I am actually doing it full time. So now I have
literally.
Quite literally. I have to juggle some things on the side, I guess, but it is
all those little life things that get in the way.
Before I then I've had 2 weeks of vacation and had the room to crunch down and do whatever I wanted, and I would spend a lot of time painting. But this is more of the, it is very consistent for me now, because I can sit down and paint every day, almost. And it means you get you get more ground coverage, basically. Yeah. So, and I even aim to finish it. So, yeah.
Jeez.
Should we clap or?
No, you get a clap when it's finished. I will do a special podcast segment for Magnus finish the model, which I think would be fair enough.
Did finish. It's not for competition. It's not for anything else. But Patreon, I might sell it, but I want to finish it. Yeah.
So are you? Leading question, and don't if you know the answer, please don't tell me, because I'm quite excited for the answer too. Is do you know? Are you already kind of thinking about what you're going to do after the Saurus for Patreon?
Yeah.
Oh,
I know.
That's exciting. Don't tell me anything. I don't want to know. I just when you decide. I'm super excited.
I know already. Yeah.
Exciting. Whereas I'm cringing through Septimus, not Septimus. That's a very different thing. In terms of, I finished the Snickrot, which is good.
Yeah, and it looked great.
Thank you very much.
Really
I'm really excited to have that done, and that's a good that feels like my first big boy model in many ways. I know I had the Marshal and the Relic Envoy before that, but I think I don't know. Maybe I'll feel different with Septimus being done, but I think you know what it is. It's because I handed that in person. That feels different
Probably
now
is.
in my head. Even though I handed in the Relic Envoy as well, but that was like a diorama thing, which I don't necessarily think is suited for diorama, so I don't expect it to do anything. But hey ho. So
as someone on the line, I would say it also feels like Snickrod was much more of you already knowing the things you were about to apply.
yes,
Some things were, of course, maybe new in some sense, but most of it was you applying something that you already actually kind of knew, where that was not the case on the Relic
Envoy. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think you're 100% right there. Because there's a lot of things like there's better NMM. There's the camo for the free-handed stuff and stuff like that. So I'm super pleased with that model. Like I didn't realize how pleased I was until I saw it on the base, and my wife, the poor lady, when we drove to Element Games to drop them off, I didn't have any carrying case, so she just had to hold both models in her hands in the car for what ended up being about an hour's drive. And so like she's like, "Can I scratch my head?" I'm like, "I will scratch your head for you. I'm very sorry." So yeah, shout outs to my wife for putting up with
which reminds me, you need to poke me at some point because I need a carrying case for going to Golden Demon.
If
I will,
you need a
100% forget.
Maybe we can now that we're big time, Mariners. Now that we've made it, maybe we can approach the fine folks at Artist Opus or similar for a nice little sponsorship. So yes, the Septimus. I mean, I recently it is nearly 85% done. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
Obviously heading into MPO, where I'm really looking forward to seeing all the amazing stuff on display.
Yeah.
But I think maybe what sold me on how much I love this hobby is yesterday I sat down to paint the bits on the staff that I'd missed out, which is actually quite a lot. Just because I hadn't got around to it yet. And I painted for 5 hours and I didn't realize. Just sat down, started painting, 5 hours went by.
Wow, that is perfect.
And I was just like, I must really like this hobby. Because largely I've stopped playing games. I've stopped so much of the stuff that I used to do to chill out. I now just hobby. That's all.
Yeah, substitute. Yeah.
Okay, so fuck up corner. What are we learning? What have you learned then since the last podcast, Manus?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. I didn't even think about. Maybe I should have put a bit of thought into it. I think it is learning for me to how to express and balance what things are important and what things are not is something you need to learn. And it is coming slowly, but I feel like getting more into the groove and learning those things are very important. And also, I am kind of I don't want to say open my eyes, but I get a bit into if it works, why fix it, right?
Yeah.
So for me, actually having a project that I want to work on and trying something different, it's probably not going to be a technique that is different because I've tried so much of it, but it could be colors and combinations and even the approach to it and what is it for and how can I explain this in a way that is meaningful to others, and does it even make sense for me to, because I've actually had to balance in the sense that I'm looking at it and thinking, well, now it's more of the same. Well, it kind of was when I began, right? Because everything is just more of the same if you break it down into on an atomic level, I guess. But for the people that are watching what we do, it might not be. So there is a huge learning experience for me to kind of balance and think about what can be valuable. And also I've had to, I guess, kind of like tell myself that it's okay to mention the same things over and over.
Yeah.
Because normally I wouldn't, right? Because for me, this is a continuous talk, I guess. But someone might come in the middle of something, right? And they haven't heard what I said 10 videos ago.
Yeah.
So that's a bit of a hard thing, because it feels like you're just repeating the same things because you've said something 5 videos or 7 videos. So I try to kind of...
It's funny you mentioned that, because I was thinking about this. On the drive. I was doing. We're driving to swimming, and I think a lot of creators, people in your position, in terms of like it's easy to think of the work you do as following a narrative like structure of, oh, well, if you're watching this video, you've probably watched these 5 videos. And I don't think that's true. I think the case is like they've found this video, they want to watch it, and ultimately all of that knowledge needs to be packaged into that video for it to work. And that's the approach you're taking, and that's why I think it works.
Yeah, and it is hard, and it is something where I'm trying to be mindful that because you can kind of like convey the same things, but from a different angle or with a bit of a twist or a spin on it, in the sense that, okay, maybe you've heard me talking about some things before, but there is something that is a bit different here, so it can have some value for you, even though you've probably heard me say it 3 times or 4 times before, because it's, I mean, if you follow along all the videos, there will be repeats, of course, of things.
And sometimes a refresher is not a bad thing by any
no, definitely not. No, definitely not. And I mean, sometimes you're almost kind of like half hearing it, I guess, in the sense that lots of people use content as something in the background while they're doing whatever, if they're painting or gaming.
But not our content, Magnus. Our content is...
Of course not.
People just clear their calendar to
stuck in it, and even if the wife is screaming and kids are crying, you're
get
just like
around. Absolutely. I want to know how to paint this.
House is burning, and they're just watching me ramble on and on and on. Yeah, sure, of course. Well, maybe not. I'm on the note. Like, I'm not delusional, so I know that people consume the content differently, right? And I think it is, so saying some of the things again, even though it's much of the same, well, it is still has some value. And I mean, especially because I actually want to do the projects that we do for Patreon, so you can actually follow along.
Yeah, that's the point.
But when something is complicated, it's just not like we could do something and heavily clip it and put it on, and then you just paint the rest of the owl.
Yeah,
but
which is not our style and not what we want to do.
It is not.
I don't think that makes people better.
I don't think it does. And while it might be good content, I can tell you that there is no better feeling than Colin saying, I did my best piece because I followed your tutorial and it just worked. It clicked for me. Look at what I did.
And it looked
awesome. My God, we made it big, man.
Yeah.
This is exactly what it's all about. So that's why I'm very, and this is a learning experience. Definitely is, because I have been sitting on my own, doing my own stuff. I have been interacting with community and all of those things. But my painting has been my own from when I started up until now, when it's
relatively recently. Yeah, completely. Well,
Yeah.
after that very deep answer, I feel like a bit of an idiot, because like my fuck up corner is I learned how to use a wet palette better, and that's improved me quite a lot. Is throwing away the one I was using 2 sponges, making sure and like that's why we put out a video, because I was like, well, if I'm learning this, then I'm sure other people can benefit from learning it. And lo and behold, that's been true. It seems like there's a lot of good buzz on that video.
It is kind of it's one of those eye-opening moments for me, where something that seems simple,
not at all,
in the sense that first I want to say that it is very different how your wet palette behaves from like country to country, house to house, climate to climate. Like you will have to learn to use it where you are. Yeah. But there are still a lot of things where people were unsure.
Yeah.
Or because the wet palette
watched this and I found out this, like, I didn't do this, and
and people saying, "What? You put 2 sponges? Why do you put 2 sponges?"
Yeah,
I don't know, but I had another one and I just put it in and it just worked out better. I thought everybody just put as much water in as they could. Nope, they didn't, because people are using the tool. Like, if you get a tool with almost no explanation, people will use it the way they see it, right? Yeah. And it might not be the best way to use it, actually. And even sometimes it's a small thing, and that's why I really enjoy something like we put content on YouTube, right? And we get comments back that people actually found it useful. Well, okay, now we're doing something right?
Yeah.
Because it's not only you learning this is how to use the wet palette. Now you can actually extend that, right? So,
like it's ultimately about putting more knowledge out into the world, out into the community, and hopefully, even like, I mean, I'm of the opinion personally that if it helps one person, it's worth it.
Yeah, I agree.
Because that was someone that was maybe Googling, not finding the answer. Because I've been that person struggling to find the answer. So it's nice when it's, when that shoe's on the other foot.
Yeah.
I can hear my small person ambling around this door and a dog sniffing at it. But it's kind of probably a good time to close it there with that final piece. So I guess, Manus, before we shut it down, do you have any closing words, any final thoughts?
No, I don't think so. No, this has been a great start, and I feel like more and more people are welcoming us, and I have so many good responses on all kinds of media, and people messaging and saying, "Wow, I found you here. So useful." Shout outs here and shout outs there. And I mean, you can get into this, the whole thing we are doing, and think it is kind of like people are fishing in the same pond, right? So maybe you want to like keep the cards close, I guess. But that's not at all the feeling I've gotten.
No.
People are generally much more like, more people in the boat to row. Yeah.
Rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So I think, yeah.
Well, thank you as always for your time, Manus, and thank you, viewer and or listener for watching / hearing us. If you are not already subscribed, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. We are at GitGud Painting on YouTube and / GG Painting on Patreon. If you would like to gain access to some of the more premium materials, we would certainly appreciate anything you do to help spread the word about what we're trying to do here. But for now, all that's left is to say thank you very much for listening. Goodbye, and until we do again, get painting.